We see the Ukrainians inflicting damage on Russian equipment and personnel on a daily basis.
Minister, are you disappointed that there will be no flag-raising ceremony for Sweden today? And in your view, is Turkey still a reliable NATO partner?
In my view, Turkey is a reliable NATO partner. We're expecting the Turkish parliament to continue and complete the proceedings for the ratification, and we see no reason why this shouldn't happen in a short amount of time.
But are you disappointed that there's no flag-raising ceremony today?
As I said, for Latvia, it's very important that Sweden does become a NATO member state. That's very important for regional security around the Baltic Sea. And we have every indication that our Turkish friends and allies are going through the procedures.
Another question on Ukraine. Now that Ukraine faces the second winter in this war, what are the needs? What is NATO or NATO allies able to provide in order to prevail this winter?
Well, so there are a number of aspects. One is, of course, militarily, everyone is continuing there, but also, especially now, on the energy infrastructure. And for example, we recently had a meeting. It was not within the NATO, it was in the G7 context, and country after country, including my own Latvia, making very concrete pledges and actually moving equipment, high voltage equipment, diesel generators, etc., to help the Ukrainians get through this winter with the expected onslaught and bombardment of its critical infrastructure that Russia is already underway in carrying out.
Are there any lessons?
General Secretary?
The lessons learned is be prepared, and this year Ukraine, together with its allies and friends, is much better prepared.
Minister, your colleague from Lithuania, Gabrielius Landsbergis, has recently voiced some concerns about the security of the Baltic states, and he said that in a few years, we don't know really when, but in a few years Russia might rise again and pose some threats to the Baltic states. So do you also see these concerns in Latvia, from Latvian perspective?
Russia is a threat to the entire security of Europe, not specifically only in the Baltics or elsewhere. And what we in the Baltics, what we in Latvia are doing, we are investing in our own security. So we're going to be at 2.4% of GDP this year, going to 3% by 2027. We see our allies in the EFP, the forward presence in Latvia, beefing up their presence in personnel, in manpower, in capabilities. We are purchasing our own air defenses, coastal defenses, HIMARS systems. So we are investing heavily in our own defense, and the allies are doing this in parallel. And the key word is to be prepared. And defense and deterrence is the key. What we need in Europe is peace. But with Russia, the only way to ensure that peace is to be strong, to make sure that an attack or a movement towards any NATO country would never occur. That is the goal, and that is currently what we are building up.
Everyone stresses that Ukraine already regained 50% of the territory that was occupied by Russia. And you also talked about what are our expectations. Is that a hint, because everyone stresses that, is that a hint to Ukraine that at some point they have to think about their expectations?
No, absolutely not. It's simply an assessment of the actual situation. Ukraine was not able to create, how should we say, lightning counteroffensive because of lack of equipment, lack of weapons, which were not necessarily very quick in coming. And that allowed the Russian side to dig in and prepare their defensive positions, which simply means that the task is possible, but it's much more difficult than maybe some imagined early on.
Do they need other weapons?
The Ukrainians, it's very clear that they need the long-range missiles so that they can seriously impede Russia's logistic capabilities. Because in a war such as this, impeding the logistics capabilities, the resupply ability, is key in success.
Minister.
Thank you. I was present in Vilnius last summer, and I and all other colleagues were very pleased when President Erdogan announced that Turkey will be ratifying Sweden's accession bid. The Parliament came together in October, so now it's the end of November. It's in committee. We're expecting it to get out of committee and get to the big vote. So we're anticipating with pleasure and want to welcome Sweden as the 32nd NATO member state. Sweden will be present today, which is very important. And Sweden is, of course, involved in exercises, but it's important that the final ratification process does go through, and we're expecting this to happen.
If Sweden joins, when Sweden joins, it's quite likely they will end up with the Nordic countries under American command, and that will leave the Baltic countries a bit alone.
I don't think that's a fair assessment. NATO it has a political aspect and it has the military aspect. The military aspect and the defensive plans are drawn up by generals. And this is what we approved also in Vilnius. So which areas under which command, all in the end is under SACEUR. And it's a question of how the military wants to operate its logistics and its chain of command. So I see no difficulty there whatsoever.
Should the Nordic support you or Kaja Kallas as next General Secretary?
Well, I think it's important to ask what should the next General Secretary have, what are the requirements of the job, and I think that there are a number of them. So one, NATO needs a proven consensus builder. We're going to have 32 countries. Keeping 32 countries together on any topic is a big challenge, and we need a consensus builder that can work with any and all allies to move everyone forward in the same direction. Second, I think it's important that the next Secretary General would come from a country, and also personally, that has a proven track record of investing in his or her own military spending, so investing the 2% of GDP or above. I think that's important as a clear signal to all allies that this really is important to us. And it also is clear that the next Secretary General has to have a clear vision on the future role of NATO, how it's going to expand, how it's going to be working to contain Russia, acknowledging the threat not in a way that is raising panic, but simply acknowledging the very real threat that Russia is and working with allies to contain Russia. It is doable. We can do it if we are calm but very determined. And that's what the next Secretary General has to have, the ability to carry all this program out.
I have two questions for you. One is on Sweden. How will you speak to Mr. Hakan Fidan about the situation regarding the Parliament not having ratified Sweden?
Well, I think all of us are continually speaking with our Turkish friends and politely inquiring when will that vote take place. And we're being reassured that everything is in process. And we're actually seeing that the movement is there. So I can only say that Latvia is anticipating Sweden's final ratification and accession as the 32nd NATO member state.
How do you interpret what's going on in northern Finland and in other borders where Russia is sending asylum seekers, obviously?
Well, in Latvia, Lithuania and Poland for more than 2 years we have been facing a hybrid threat from Belarus, where the Belarusian authorities are encouraging third country nationals to illegally attempt crossing into the European Union. And we're simply seeing that situation is now extending from Finland also in Estonia. So you could say the entire Russian-Belarusian border now is a potential hybrid threat. We are all very closely coordinated. We are speaking with each other on a political level on a daily basis, and importantly on the border patrol on a daily basis. It simply is a threat that in Latvia, Lithuania and Poland we've been living with for 2 years, and we have certain expertise. Now, unfortunately, Finland and Estonia are joining, and it looks like a concentrated and coordinated effort backed by Russia.
But what is the purpose?
The purpose is to create instability. Actually, from Russia's point of view, it's a low-cost way of potentially causing problems. It doesn't require the army, it doesn't require any large investments, it simply requires allowing people through, or perhaps even organizing people to move through. We've seen that on our border for more than 2 years now, and we're seeing it begin in Finland and Estonia. But the important counter message is that those of us on the NATO side are united and coordinated. And we will be able to maintain NATO's outer border regardless of what Russia does or does not do.
What would be your advice to today that we will not have a welcoming ceremony for Sweden today here in Brussels as a new member state?
How disappointed? Well, I can only say that as the foreign minister of Latvia, my country is anticipating very much this final ratification procedure in Turkey and in Hungary. And we're hoping that it will be completed as soon as possible.
Minister, and all the qualities... The chances for a military Schengen
for
the movement of the troops across Europe more easily, without bureaucracy. NATO troops moving from country to country without serious issues.
Yes, well, this has already been addressed. It is being addressed. It is not yet fully solved, but we need to solve it, of course, to have that.
Coordination, this is very crucial for coordination.
Agreed. Agreed. Thank you.
Man skal dog glæde sig af, at der er kommet et gang i processen, og jeg vil gerne have oversendt papirerne til den tyrkiske.
Madame la ministre, bonjour et bienvenue, représentant militaire. Je ne vois pas non plus pour la petite carrière, mais je voulais au moins être là pour vous saluer à votre arrivée. Voilà, donc, j'aimerais bien, mais pas mal de...
représentant de l'Union européenne également. Très bien.
of the truce, because we need to see all hostages being released. We need to make sure that there is more humanitarian aid going into Gaza, and we need to see all foreign nationals being released, because Canada still has Canadians that are remaining in Gaza and would love to be able to get out of Gaza. I would like to thank, of course, Qatar, Egypt, and the US, who have been playing an important role. And we hope that the extension of the truce will help to bring a lasting peace to the Middle East, which can be only achieved through a two-state solution. Now, let me talk to you also about Ukraine. Of course, while what is happening in the Middle East is taking a lot of our attention, we need to make sure that we're always focused on Ukraine, and that is why we will continue to support Ukraine. I think we did a lot back in Vilnius this past summer. We had important commitments that were announced, and now we're in the midst of implementing these commitments. And this will be part of the conversations we will be having today and tomorrow at NATO. Of course, Canada has been spearheading the idea of long-term security commitments for Ukraine, and right now we are working amongst the G7 to make sure that these long-term security commitments are also fulfilled, and so you can hear me talking about that in the coming days. Je peux tout dire ça en français si vous voulez.
Minister, one question.
Il y a personne qui veut que je parle en français ici.
Minister, one question.
I can say that in French. I'll just say it very quickly in French. Okay? Donc, sur la question du Moyen-Orient, je voulais tout simplement vous dire que le Canada voit d'un bon œil le fait qu'il y ait un prolongement, une extension de la trêve. Nous nous attendons et nous soutenons une autre extension de la trêve. Pourquoi? Parce que nous pensons que c'est la seule façon qu'il puisse y avoir une libération de tous les otages, qu'il puisse y avoir aussi plus d'aide qui soit acheminée à Gaza, et finalement que les Canadiens qui sont pris à Gaza et tous les autres nationaux qui sont à Gaza puissent être en mesure de quitter la région. Et essentiellement, ce que l'on en appelle, c'est que cette extension de la trêve puisse mener à une paix durable qui pourra se faire uniquement par une solution à deux États. Aussi, ici, nous sommes présents pour parler de l'importance de soutenir l'Ukraine, aussi être en mesure de remplir notre promesse d'aider les Ukrainiens à long terme. Le Canada a été très impliqué dans le développement de l'idée des garanties de sécurité à long terme pour l'Ukraine, et c'est ce sur quoi je vais travailler avec mes homologues au cours des 2 prochains jours. Thank you.
Do you think Ukraine has enough to win this war?
I think that Ukraine has a lot, but needs more. And that is why we came up with important commitments this past summer. Now, while there's been lots of words, we need even more action. And that is why we'll be talking about the implementation of our commitments, which is key.
In the Middle East, over the past several weeks, there were so many activity, Iranian militia activity. They have been attacked some bases, US bases. Are you concerned in the Middle East on Iranian militia activity?
We're always concerned with Iran. We're always concerned with the fact that Iran is a threat to the Middle East, and that is why our approach when it comes to Iran has been clear. Iran has no place and needs to stay out of any form of Israel attacks, and of course Hezbollah and Hamas for us are terrorist organizations supported by Iran.
So you're talking about action, but you're still below the 2%. Canada's still not fulfilling the 2%. You talk about action, why is that?
Well, Canada is now increasing its military defense spending. Particularly, we're heading the Latvian NATO forces. We're working right now on the defense policy update, and we will increase our defense spending.
Minister, you said that it's time for action. So
yeah.
Enough words anymore, but still the resupply is not fast enough. The EU misses its target to send 1 million ammunition. The drawdown package from the US was very small last time, and the aid is blocked in Congress. Does Ukraine need to think about another strategy, like truly think about another strategy in order to win this war?
I think we have a good strategy, and Ukraine has a good strategy, but we need to implement it. And so that's why we'll be talking about it. Prime Minister Trudeau and President von der Leyen and Charles Michel were in together in Canada last week and announced more support to Ukraine, and we will continue to make sure that that happens. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Hello. For journalist entrance? Yes. Press access only. Thank you.
Hello. Hi. Are you waiting for a driver? For the minister. For the minister, it's Vito? Vito? ERS? Not Macedonia. Ah, yes.
Is it okay? Well, good afternoon. I'm particularly glad that today's NATO ministerial meeting will discuss Western Balkans and together with the EU. And I believe this is the best way to address challenges that the region faces in a coordinated approach, in a synergy of action, believing that only accelerated European and Euro-Atlantic integration of the region is panacea of the struggles of the region. North Macedonia has been playing an important role as a stabilizing factor in the region. We are a functional multi-ethnic democracy. We lead by example. We hosted the EU-led Serbia-Kosovo dialogue, which produced the Ohrid Agreement, which is the basis for a comprehensive agreement between the two countries centered on mutual recognition. We recently hosted in Skopje Secretary General Stoltenberg and the NATO leaders from the region to address security challenges of the region, and also as OSCE chairpersonship we have been engaged in addressing those challenges through the 6 field operations in the Western Balkans. Second, I want to welcome the first NATO-Ukraine Council. We will continue supporting Ukraine for as long as it takes, and also I'm glad that we will start the discussion on our preparations for the Washington summit next year, where NATO will mark its 75th anniversary and it will strengthen its deterrence and defense. Thank you so much.
You guys came through during the pandemic, but seeing the struggles membership has right now with countries wanting to get in, how fortunate do you feel?
NATO membership has been a key strategic priority of North Macedonia since day one of its independence. We live in a difficult region. We live at a geopolitical crossroad, and I often say, usually in traffic, accidents happen at crossroads. So we wanted to be safe in the security umbrella that NATO provides, and we have been feeling this in the last 3 years, also by contributing to NATO, but also by providing security, predictability, a political and economic predictability. We have increased foreign investment in North Macedonia just by the mere fact that we are a NATO member, because investors want predictability, security predictability, but also it's important that we now contribute to the region as an important stabilizing factor. Thank you so much.
Ukraine to start considering how it ends this war?
I think it's important that we remain united in supporting Ukraine for as long as it takes, and Ukraine will decide for its own future. Thank you.
Minister, do you expect to meet Mr. Lavrov tomorrow, or the day, after tomorrow in Skopje?
I believe so. Lavrov is not coming to Skopje in a way. Lavrov is coming to the OSCE, just as he went to UN in New York a few months ago. But and I won't be meeting him as a foreign minister of North Macedonia, but as a OSCE chairman in office. Thank you so much.
What will your message to him be, Minister? What will your message to Mr. Lavrov be?
I think Russian Federation has violated the very foundation of the organization I chair, the principles and commitments of the OSCE, principles that we have voluntarily subscribed to 50 years ago. And we have condemned the aggressor throughout our chairpersonship, and also we have turned OSCE into a platform for political and legal accountability of the Russian Federation for its deed in Ukraine, and we will continue to do so. And this is what I'm going to tell to Mr. Lavrov as well.
Boycott if Minister Lavrov attends.
I believe now we need to raise beyond, above our national interest, but rather see the collective interest of the organization. The OSCE has been serving our region in managing conflicts, in promoting democratic values, and I think it's going to be even more critical in the future, in a more challenging world, to have an organization such as OSCE. I've been saying often lately, if there wasn't an OSCE, we should have invented. I've been traveling throughout the world, and other regions are trying to create something like OSCE. We have it with its unique toolbox, and we need to preserve it. And I think this should be our most important focus. And what happened yesterday was a huge diplomatic victory for the democratic world. We preserved the OSCE, and it will continue to serve the generations ahead, since in the end it's about people. And this is the slogan of North Macedonia's chairpersonship with the OSCE. Thank you so much.
Don't